Thank you so much. First, I just want to welcome everybody to our event. This is just going to be sort of a not so formal discussion between me, Desiree, and Natalie. So yeah, it's just pretty much our opinions, how we feel. We're going to talk about the legacy of Dr. King, of course, because this is exactly what this whole week was designed for. We'll also talk about how we can continue his legacy and how it personally affects us and just everything that impacts our daily lives. So we can go ahead and get started. Next slide, please. So who is MLK Jr.? So Dr. King would have been 92 years old tomorrow. He was assassinated in 1969, despite being an advocate for peace. He's most known for his I Have a Dream speech. I'm pretty sure a lot of us have, of course, known exactly what this is. It's the main thing that we're learned in elementary, middle school. His work and legacy consists of so much more, though. It's not just limited to the I Have a Dream speech. There's more than just the March on Washington. There's so much that really, I feel, was kind of buried in our history that we should learn more about. So moving on, Dr. King was a key leader during the Civil Rights Movement. He led sit-ins in Atlanta. He was instrumental in the Selma voting rights movement, stood in opposition to the Vietnam War, and led the Poor People's Campaign to advocate for economic justice. So based on the images of the Civil Rights Movement that you have been shown, whether that's in elementary school, middle school, high school, just textbook images, stuff like that, stuff you have Googled as well. Do you feel there's a solid representation of the era struggle? I'm going to ask that to Natalie first.
No, I don't. Basically, we've been kind of sugarcoating what really happened in that era. We've been, especially in elementary school, it was just kind of like, okay, Martin Luther King had this dream, and now all of you guys get to go to school together. And that's not it. That's not it at all. A lot of people died. A lot of people were beaten brutally, and for crying out loud, Martin Luther King was killed, and people tend to kind of dance over that, like, yeah, he was killed, but we get to go to school together, and we can work together. But it's like, no, we still deal with stuff to this day, so it doesn't represent it at all.
I absolutely agree. Desiree?
I would have to agree with Natalie. I would say no, that there was no representation for me. In kindergarten through elementary, there was nothing taught about Martin Luther King. I mean, we have Black History Month, but it's like, okay, this is just a month where we don't really talk about it. There was no lesson about, okay, this is what happened. And then even once you reach middle school, high school, it's like you don't learn everything that happened. It's like they teach you what they want you to know, and that's most definitely not the whole story when it's not being told to you from the perspective of an individual who is experiencing what you are about to experience when you get out here in the real world. Your parents may be able to shelter you and protect you from that, but as an adult, it's like, hey, you're just out here on your own, figure it out as you go. Nobody taught you, not even in school, so.
I think those are perfect examples of sort of the misrepresentation that we had, because even me, I mean, I'm a little bit older than you guys, but honestly, I could say elementary school, we probably talked about MLK the most. In middle and high school, it really started dwindling away, like it really didn't matter and stuff like that. So I really wanted to ask you guys that to make sure, people know that this is a common thing. It's not just one person who's experienced, oh yeah, we don't really know the full story, or we're not really given the real representation of what happened. And it's just really important that I think we all know. I think we all should be given, the full truth. But yeah, that's a definitely important perspectives from what we have been experiencing. So moving on. So his legacy, he was the youngest recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize. Dr. King influenced struggles for human rights across the globe, really. He inspired peaceful protests in the face of violence. Selma to Montgomery marches on foot, you all know this. The March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom in 1963 directly connected the 2020 virtual March on Congress. Dr. King's words and actions still resonate 53 years after his death. These two images that I put into the PowerPoint, the one in black and white is from 1963 and the one in color is from 2020. But I want to note that in 1963, colored photographs were a thing. So I also believe that's a way to also misrepresent what happened, because instead of us seeing it as something that only happened 53 years ago, we're seeing it as things that happened 80, 90, 100 years ago, and that's just not the case. So I just want to ask you all, Desiree, how does it feel seeing these images side by side?
I feel like it just shows that history is really just repeating itself and that things really haven't changed much, even though we are made to believe that things are changing when they give us these little victories, like, oh, we may have got this, but, we still haven't brought this officer to justice for killing this guy. You feel me? So I would say, it's disturbing to still have to see 53 years later that we still have to march on Washington and have to repeat the same things that our ancestors have already done.
And Natalie?
It hurts. It pains me. My mom, she's gonna be 60 this year, and to think about how this literally was within her lifetime and this is in my lifetime, and to think about, sitting here looking at this, it's kind of like a slap in the face that we never really got our justice. We never will get our justice, sort of. It's kind of like I'm numb to it, but also it's still a reminder of I'm not really represented as a real person here in this country, and I probably never will be. Does that make sense?
It does. And I think you made a really good point on, sort of being desensitized from it. And that kind of piggybacks into the next question. Do you think Dr. King's dream of equality has ever been realized? Have we ever, seen any kind of examples, demonstrations on equality? I know for a fact there's still inequalities in the healthcare system, housing, education, everything, every aspect of our lives has been depicted from our history. Do you think anything has ever shown? Desiree?
I'll have to say no again because, like you said, our housing, hospitals, education is like that's a big one. Education, when you have to live in Detroit and you have to go out to Southfield or Royal Oak or just anywhere other than a location that you already live in, just to feel like you get an education that you deserve, it's it's not okay. Just because you have allowed us to integrate into schools, it's still things that happen where it's like, okay, they still aren't receiving the same level of education others are receiving. So.
Absolutely agree. Natalie?
Yeah, even to piggyback off of education, people, when they see an intelligent Black person, they automatically think that there's something wrong with them, or they think they have to have cheated in some way to get that stance or something to be that smart. And it's like, no, I studied that way. And education, in order to get a good education, you have to be in somewhere affluent, and I think that's wrong. And I think that because we've been in a predicament where we've had to go out of our area to get educated and to find other resources, we haven't been able to really pour back into our communities because of the disparity. And that's another way that we don't have inequality, because now we have to move out of our areas in order to have better, because our areas are being over policed and everything, because they think that we're not good enough. But the areas that are under police, quote unquote, are areas that don't have us, and that's just not equal. And I could go on and on, but it's just like, people think that, our areas are bad, but that's another stance of inequality, because we're still equal, we're still human. Nobody thinks we're truly equal, though, when it really comes down to it.
Exactly. And with you saying that, what you both mentioned, you should be able to be comfortable where you're at. Your zip code depicts a lot of things, your resources, your court systems, all types of stuff like that. So really, I think that there's a lot of times that aspects in our lives are kind of, we kind of neglect to see how there's a correlation between the two things, but it absolutely matters. So how do you all think that Dr. King's works and ideas are still relevant today? And either one of you could answer this question. Both of you don't have to.
Okay, I'll answer it. I feel like his ideas and words are still relevant because we still have to fight for everything that he was fighting for before he died. The equality. We still aren't there. When we have to still march for justice because our Black men are being gunned down in the streets, because our schools are being shut down, and when you can't go to a school because that district has closed schools, and then it's like you're being left with, I have this one school to go to, and there's one teacher teaching 45 kids in one classroom, and I'm not receiving the education that I should be. And it's being taken away from us slowly but surely. I feel like it's kind of reverting back to, 53 years ago, if you will. I mean, it's crazy.
It's the absolute truth. With that, I want to go ahead and move on. It's really sad seeing, how every bit of our lives you think there's change and there's really not. And then we have the comparisons, these images, pepper spray, tear gas, police beating protesters. It's the same. It's really the same, and it's sad to see. What are some parallels between Dr. King's era and today, Natalie?
Oof. Well, you have. Okay, I want to address this in multiple ways. There are parallels because racism never really was truly addressed. And I say this because if you go all the way back to slavery and you go all the way back to the Civil War was fought over, it wasn't necessarily a fight over slavery, but it was also a fight over white supremacy, if you really want to come down and you want to think about it. Because you had people who were like, oh, well, because I am this and because I want to own people, you can't tell me that it is not my God-given right, because I am this color, to not own people and to be able to inherit this. And since nobody has truly addressed this problem within America, that's why we keep having this problem. So this is why we see parallels. So the Civil War ended and we had Reconstruction. We had Abraham Lincoln freeing the slaves. However, as is noted in the 13th Amendment, you can still have slavery as long as a person is a criminal. That's why you have mass incarceration. So then you have Lincoln being assassinated, so that problem cannot truly be addressed. And then you have Reconstruction, you have people in the civil rights era leading movements, and those people are assassinated. So you see this pattern of assassination. You see people speaking up and talking about this issue of white supremacy, and we're talking about racism, but nobody really talks about the issue of, hey, you can't do this to a group of people just because you think that you're greater than them over your skin color. And that's why we have the parallels of people beating people because of the color of their skin. People, well, there have been lynchings really in the crimes, people lynching people just mass murdering people of their color, of their skin color, and just the peaceful protesting. That's why you have all of this. Did I answer that?
Hit it on the nail. I honestly can't. I don't think I'm wow. Just wow. Did you have anything to follow up with that? That was amazing. You muted yourself again. I'm sorry.
It's nothing to really add. I mean, I completely agree with Natalie, when she said that, they assassinated Lincoln. I feel like, in a sense, when they feel like any president is is advocating for the Black community, it seems like it's a problem. Like, John F. Kennedy was assassinated too, and he was supposed to be working with Martin Luther King, and both of them were assassinated. So I'll have to say that Natalie, she really answered the question well, and I agree with what she's saying.
I absolutely agree. And I know we're further into the event, but I also want I want to keep noting this is our reality. This is our facts. These are our opinions. This is everything we see, the things we know. This based off of true experience. This isn't just, oh, we found some numbers. This is true. This happens. It still bothers people. And honestly, we already answered a piece of this question, how history is repeating itself in several ways, as anybody with eyes could honestly see. It's very obvious. How do we stop that from happening? Is it conversations? Is it action? It seems like everything we do, nothing happens. So what do we do to keep going forward? Desiree?
Honestly, I mean, you can say, oh, we need to have conversations and we need to keep marching. And but I think we can't really have change until people have a change of heart. You can't, it's hard to keep marching and keep, having these conversations, and then people aren't listening to you. People still teach their kids racism. Racism is not something that you are born with. It's something that's taught, something that's forced upon another person. And how do we stop it? We can talk till we blue in the face, I guess.
I think that's like the hard part is, like you said, it's really one-sided when it's just us. How do you feel, Natalie?
I honestly think that, history is bound to repeat itself in some way, shape, or form because we are human and that is human nature. However, you can right some of the wrongs by education, by, like Desiree said, by having conversations and getting people to listen. Education is important, and if people aren't educated, then they are ignorant and they make ignorant decisions. But as far as anything else, I think voting is important. There's a reason why we vote. Electing the correct people in office is very important. Yes, Professor Norwood, acknowledging white supremacy is a very good start. Wanted to tread lightly, but I guess we really can't. I want to be unapologetic. Yes, acknowledging white supremacy in the United States, that's a thing. and acknowledging it as soon as we have uncomfortable conversations. That's when things really start to change. We can't sugarcoat things anymore. Too many people have died for that. You can't.
Exactly. We've tried the hand holding, all that good stuff. You're just a little racist. It's okay. No, we're tired of that. There's no more sugarcoating. We really have to be straight up. There's no way you can have an uncomfortable conversation without straight up being honest about it. If you're just gonna, you got to dive deep in, honestly. And education is a big part. I believe personally, with us being kind of misdirected and misinformed on our history, that's a huge reason why things keep repeating, because we don't know. It's just straight facts. I'm gonna be honest with everybody. We don't know everything. I'm 23 to this day, still learning things about the history. I'm taking African American history right now, and there's things I still haven't learned that I'm shocked, completely shocked about. So, what's our role in fighting for racial equality? What do we do? We've seen Gen Z out here representing, going crazy for us. So, how do we move forward? What do we do? Natalie?
So since social media is a thing, because we are all quarantined in the house due to the pandemic, that certain people in leadership that are going to be out of leadership soon will not take responsibility for, we need to get on social media and just go at it and display the message. Display it. Just go and, in whatever our language is of just getting our message across, get it out there. Say, this is why racism is a problem. This is why white supremacy is a problem. This is why so many people have died. This is why Colin Kaepernick kneeling was a problem to you, but people going up to capitals and all that is not a problem to you. This is why I feel like I can't sleep in my bed, because Breonna Taylor was murdered when she was sleeping in her bed. And so now I don't even feel safe in my own home because people can come shoot me in my own bed, but you ain't ready for that conversation. This is why we need to go on social media and really use that platform, because it's everywhere. I mean, I can pick up my phone right now. People have been hitting me up since this event has started. And, we are joined at the hip to our phones. We can instantly access those messages. Everybody's reading them now. We go on Twitter to see the news. Well, our news feed could be filled with Black Lives Matter, the legacy of MLK, the legacy of Malcolm X. People always talk about MLK, but won't talk about Malcolm X. But really, this is where we're at now. So yeah.
Amazing. Desiree?
I feel like that was a great answer, honestly. I mean, like now I was saying, we have social media now, we have the internet. We have even more tools than, Martin Luther King and them had. I feel like we have to force them to see what they need to see at the end of the day. You just got to keep fighting back, We are, the change. I mean, this is about to become our world. So we just got to keep doing what we're doing. We'll get there.
Huge emphasis on the social media. One thing that I think is huge is everything's right here at the palm of our hands. Like you said, everything's being videotaped, everything's being broadcasted. There is really, honestly, it's so hard to get away with things now. And I think those are really great ways. Those are, like you said, Natalie, different forms of communication. Those are great ways to really, get out there, get the word across, just really speak your truth. This is how we fight in any way possible, especially being in the house is the best way to do it. Right, your city officials, all of that. And I think those were excellent answers. So we can go ahead and move on to the next slide. Alrighty, current events. This was my favorite slide making. I'm not even gonna lie, because as we see, there's somebody smoking in the Capitol, and there are hundreds upon thousands of Black and minorities alike in prison for minor drug offenses. People stormed the Capitol, as we all know, January 6th. There was a hot mess out there. It was crazy, and I'm honestly devastated how things went down. There's so much that could have gone. The reaction. That's the biggest thing, was the reaction. Peaceful protesters were met with rubber bullets, tear gas, pepper spray, gas cans being exploded right in front of them. And you can literally storm a government building with confidential information. And yeah, so do you think Dr. King's strategies for protests can still work today? Do our peaceful protests work? What do you guys think? We're getting still shot at, beaten, yelled at, all types of stuff when we protest. What's the message here, Desiree?
Like, yes, it's okay to peacefully protest. I'm not gonna say, we should go out and start showing people, but I mean, as aggressive as they are with us, it's like it puts you in a mindset of why not, fight back and be just as aggressive as they are. Because when you have a whole bunch of white people flying in from Florida, Tennessee, I mean, all across from down south to come to DC, all the way on the East Coast to attack the Capitol, and nothing was done. Where was the police then? Where was the rubber bullets? Where was the tear gas? Even a lady was wiping her eyes with an onion, to get pity. And it's like, it's just out of pocket. And, it's like we compare this to the Black Lives Matter protest, and it's like, this is a joke. Like, you sat here and stormed the Capitol because it wasn't enough of y'all voting for Trump. I mean, that's all it boiled down to at the end of the day. And I mean, it's like, it just shows America's true colors, honestly. It's ridiculous. Like,
It's a
I
slap.
think,
It's really a slap in the face. I've seen a tank, like tank,
no,
whole tank.
yes, they call in the National Guard, the Army, and everything when it comes to us protesting peacefully. Okay, 53 years ago when what's his name, Martin Luther King was marching, they down there with baseball bats with barbed wire and everything tied around it, and nothing happened to them. And it just makes you think, like, okay, is this how we need to approach the situation? Do we need to become like them? Is this the way that we get our answers? Is this the way we get our justice? Because they'll recount the votes for them.
And that's you said something that I really want to make note on. It's like, do we become them? And me personally, it's like we're stooping lower than what we really need to be. It's like we are lower than. And it's really hard because it's like, they can react how they want to. When we sit here and do our little peaceful protests, our sit-ins, our boycotts, it's an issue. And it's like,
if I raise my voice too loud in the bank, I'm an angry Black woman. You feel me? I feel like this is, a white lady can go jump in a Black lady police officer's face and say what she want to say, but as soon as that lady put her hands on her, it's like, oh, she didn't have to go that far. But she's literally attacking me right now. I'm supposed to sit here and take it? I'm surrounded by a group of white supremacists, and I'm supposed to just be cool, calm, and collective? Crazy. But that's my opinion.
I agree, Natalie, because I like, look, everybody participating, just know, like, we all are women on this panel. Yes, that is true, but oh my goodness, we have different opinions on everything. Things are so different. We take things differently. So that's why I really wanted to ask, two women, because usually you see panels, several, men, women combined, but I think it's really important to see, exactly how we feel, not only for ourselves, but for the rest of our people. So go ahead, Natalie.
Hey, I think honestly, I could come at this a whole bunch of different ways. Firstly, do I think the strategies still work today? Yes and no. They work because we still need to be peaceful. We can't go low. We can't become what we are trying to go against. We can't become monsters if we are trying to separate from the monster itself. We can't become darkness if we are trying to show light in a situation. So, in order for us to show peace, yes, in order for us to show peace in a situation of violence, we cannot become violence ourselves. Now, that's not saying that we can just be ran over, and just allow ourselves to be overtaken and just be constantly killed. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, until somebody, what my mom always told me, until somebody puts their hands on you, you don't touch somebody. And the same thing applies when you are protesting peacefully. Until a police officer really puts their hands on you, until that happens, you're you're in the right. You're not doing anything until somebody antagonizes you and physically touches you. Then that's self-defense. And I think people need to remember that. As far as storming the Capitol, I think what everybody needs to remember is these people didn't have the melanin in their blood, in their skin. And so when the police saw them, they were already in the crowd. So when you were looking for the police were already there. So, not saying that all police are bad people, because they're not. But some of the police officers that you were looking for were already in that crowd. And we learned from that day that the police know how to not use deadly force. So, as I'm saying this, they knew that those people were coming, because there were already inside sources that had told them that. Because the people who stormed the Capitol were storming the Capitol because they felt that, because I am this color, because I already because I voted for Trump and they didn't certify that vote, and because what I view is right, then this is how I feel, and I'm going to exercise my amendments because I can do whatever I want, because I am this and nobody is above me, and I can do what I feel as though is right, and nobody can tell me any different. And that's the problem in this country, because I'm just trying to be so nice and say it without saying it, because white people in this country feel as though, and it's not all of you, but some white people feel as though in this country that they can do anything without any sort of repercussion to anyone. That's why we had the event at the Capitol on the 6th. And so what we need to realize is that we as Black people, we don't have to take that, but we also have to be peaceful too. And so while we're addressing the situation at the Capitol, it's worth noting that the police at the Capitol really weren't going to do anything, because they envisioned a threat at the Capitol as looking like something other than them, because they can't see that the problem is them as well. And that's all I had to say.
I want to ask that, they think they've been cheated, or they feel like they've been cheated because Trump lost the presidency. How do they think we feel on a day-to-day basis?
Exactly.
We live in a world, we live in a country where we're not even recognized as human beings. You know, it's like, how do you think we feel? If you feel like this, just because the person you didn't want to win didn't win.
It's really sad because a lot of people are comparing the two, like them storming the Capitol and the protests for Black Lives Matter. But I don't think people realize like we're literally protesting to not be killed, to
And
feel
they
safe.
fighting for a joke. This
And,
is,
and Andrew mentioned, I love this. Dr. Muna said, peaceful does not mean passively settling for abuse. And that's absolutely true because everybody has freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, which is true. Protesting at the Capitol, that was freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, but for the wrong reasons. It could have been anything else. It could have been gone about any other way. But the two are not the same, and it's really disgusting. It's really uh it's disheartening seeing people compare the two because they're not the same. And anybody who's not Black really isn't going to understand that personally. They don't understand that pain that you can feel, you know. What if my cousin isn't here tomorrow? What if my brother gets killed? What if it's not the same? And that's the biggest thing that I think that people need to keep in mind is they're not the same. There's no other way to put it. It's sickening. So moving on. Thank you all for those answers. I think that a lot of people have been a little wrong with their interpretation of what has happened. So we can go ahead and move on to the next slide. Okay, so continuing the legacy, you know, we're not going to be at OCC forever. I'm a nursing major. Desiree, your early childhood education, and Natalie, your pre-med. I think that's really worth noting that we don't have political science backgrounds. I'm not interested in political science or American government or anything like that. I'm sorry to anybody who is, but that's personally not what I chose. And personally, I chose nursing because the disparities in the healthcare field, and we all have a job to do. I think as Black women, Black men, when we go into the work field, we all have a role, and we all have to do something to make other people like ourselves more comfortable. So how do we move forward as a community? What do we do? What steps do we take? How do we continue to grow our community, I guess? Desiree?
I feel like a way that we can move forward is to teach our kids, you know, teach people that are younger than us that, you know, it's more out here and that we are being treated as if we are the bad guys and we're not. I feel like we need to educate. We need to uplift. Um, there's so many little kids out here that just don't know that, you know, it is education out here for them to get, and that education is the only way for them to get ahead. And, you know, they need to learn the seriousness of it. Because I know as a kid myself, I did not take school seriously. I didn't take school seriously until I got to 11th grade, and I realized, like, you know, you about to be living in your mama's basement. You know, you got to get out here and get your grades. So I feel like that's something that we need to instill in kids now that, you know, we are being targeted, mistreated, not being able to express how we feel freely, you know, and that you pretty much living a dangerous life just because you're Black, you know.
Natalie?
First off, like Desiree said, teach them the seriousness of education because, again, education does get you out of poverty. If you don't have education, it's very difficult to get out of poverty. Secondly, and I want to disclaim that by saying, if you're African American, that does not mean that you're in poverty. What I'm saying is that as an African American, you start off at level -3, while a person who is white, for example, will start off at like level 3 because they already have an inheritance based on what they have economically and other external factors because of privilege. But we can also teach about just the importance of investments and how to just handle money as well, because you can have a great education and you can be able to do all these things academically, but if you can't handle your money, then that doesn't really get you very far as well. And also instill in our community just self-love, because right now I think we're at a situation as a community where we don't love ourselves enough to truly see that our Black is beautiful, and now we want all this fakeness about ourselves. And if we don't love ourselves and we live in a world where everybody already hates us but wants to take everything about us, then how can we move forward and make greater advancements?
That's a big one. I feel like self-love and really any kind of, that contributes to your mental health. I feel like that's really not talked about in our community, and it's absolutely true. There's really a huge stigma for anything mental health, honestly. And I really feel like the education is so, so important. Education, action, due diligence, all that stuff. We have to do it. And it's really hard starting. I'm not gonna lie, like even just here with Black Student Union, just getting resources, talking to people and stuff like that, it's absolutely difficult. It's never gonna really be easy, but we have to take those steps, and just those two things alone can go a long way. So how will you all use your education to continue? That's not supposed to say the struggle. We're just gonna say the legacy. I apologize for that. Omit that. So how will you use your education to continue the legacy? Pre-med, early childhood education. Those are two very different spectrums of anything, honestly. So it's like, what do you plan to use? Your representation for the younger generation. How do you plan to continue that legacy?
I'll go first. In my field, I'll be teaching little kids. So it's like, that's like we've been saying this whole event, it starts with education, and that's pretty much my goal, teach little kids, what they need to know, and that the community they live in and the world that we live in is just not going to be handed to them. We weren't handed generational wealth or, or financial stability. We weren't handed nice homes, and that's something we're gonna have to get out here and get. That's pretty much it. Teach them their history. Because we didn't learn that, so that's something that we need to give them, and it also needs to be taught at home too. So, if you got a parent that can't really teach you, we need to educate ourselves so then we can teach them, because we're not educating ourselves completely. Like you said, it's stuff that you still don't know. But I bet when my kids step into the classroom, they're going to know that, Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks was out there marching for them, and you need to go sit in that classroom and get your education, So, yeah.
Exactly. Natalie?
I'm gonna use it just essentially to make sure that there's not really I'm looking for the word, bias in the medical field, and that people get the proper care, especially because I would like to be a pediatric neurologist and work with children. So I would hope that my patients, that they would receive the best health care, but I also would want to work in communities that are underprivileged. So provide them with good resources and just make sure that everyone has fair treatment.
I love that. So not too many of you know, but Western's previous Black Student Union president, he wrote a book called A Message to Black students, and he discusses, having resources. You get your education, we go on, become lawyers, doctors, nurses, all types of things up under the sun, but we never give it back to the community. We don't have to where, they can afford our resources and stuff like that. I think that's really important. Me personally, just with nursing, the pain bias, Black women, really, Black people in general, we're really not seen as having, pain isn't interpreted the way that they think. So it's stuff like that, and just infant mortality, morbidity rates. So that's really why I chose my thing. So there's so many different factors. Like I said earlier, all types of industries, we have to play our part to make sure things are just and things are right, because there are disparities everywhere. There's so much, it's systemic racism, discriminations everywhere, no matter where you look. Art, music, health, being a lawyer, everything. It's really sad. And with that, do you have hopes that things will change? Do you think we'll see some positive trends somewhere? Are things gonna get better, or are we just gonna keep this repeated cycle of, at least we can vote, at least we can go, go to school together? Or are we just stagnant?
I think at this point, we've kind of hit like this wall. And the way I see it, we're either going to go one of two ways. It's either going to go in a really positive upturn and something's going to happen dramatically. And as an optimist, it's going to happen dramatically and something's going to change. Or the more likely event that I'm seeing is that we are going to go way back to the Jim Crow era. We're just going to have like really good technology, and we're probably going to have like something more difficult not more difficult, I don't want to say that, but like weirder that we have to endure. Just the way that I see it, the way things are shifting, the way the political climate is looking. That's the way I see it. I would like to say I have hope, but at this point, especially the way the past 5 years have gone and just where we are, I don't really see things changing positively, but I do see things changing.
Desiree?
I mean, I hope things change, but like Natalie said, right now we're just at a plateau, and if we basically fighting to keep this plateau, we could shift back. They want us to, so we just got to keep fighting for it. How? That's something we're gonna have to keep working on how we're gonna force them to change. How do we get them to see that what they believe just isn't fair? So all we can do is hope.
I'm definitely with both of you on that. I don't want to seem pessimistic or, just, all things have always been bad. Woe is me. Everything's horrible. But it's the truth. It's like, what's really going to change? I mean, 5, 10 years, 15 years from now, we're still going to be walking down the street, holding hands, getting pepper sprayed and stuff like that. It's like, there's still so much to change. And, you do see the changes in certain industries and certain, just walks of life. But for there to be a change for a whole people, I don't see that happening. Not anytime soon. Not in my generation. I don't think we're ever going to see that. Maybe in the future, but not our generation. We'll be doing the same thing for a while.
I also think we need to look inward, though. Like, in our community, we be so against each other and so ready to tear each other down. especially the Black women. It's like, girl, you're not thick enough, or it's to get real wild, or it's a battle between the light skinned girls and the dark skinned girls and the black and the brown skinned girls. We just fall in between, and you good enough, but like what, and it's like everybody like protect the Black women and stuff, and I agree with that. I'm with it, but we also have to protect the Black men. We need to protect each other. You feel me? It's like, because they're not gonna protect us. I've seen Joe Budden when he says Black women aren't exotic compared to foreign women, and
What does that mean?
like, a Black woman may be yelling at you, but it's different when she might start yelling at you in Spanish. Like what? Like, why would you even think to say something like that?
Black women can speak multiple languages, right?
Really can.
And
but
that's a big thing in our community, like you said. It does start, with us. There's a lot of discrepancies, a lot of, pushback within ourselves. But if we look back in history, it's all been from design. So that's something else I really don't want to get into this event, because it's just so much deeper than what our understanding truly is. But it's all been, it's a design. There's no flaws in it. It's worked perfectly. It's honestly worked beautifully. How messed up the system is, like it's amazing.
Yeah.
But the Black community being part was by design, and it absolutely worked. And
it's all learned behavior. It's something that needs to be unlearned.
But we've been on this side for a while. Thank you all for your answers. You can go ahead and move to the next. But yeah, it's a design. And there's no flaws in that system. Oh, this is my favorite question. As we were just talking, I apologize for my internet right now. I see that it says my connection is unstable. But do you believe you'll be protected as a Black woman in your career? Because me personally, I know Natalie's gonna experience this too. You can have all the qualifications in the world. They see you as a woman, they're like, oh no, not only do they want a white doctor, they want a male doctor too. So do you think you'll be protected in your careers? Do you think there's going to be... No, straight up no.
No. First off, for anyone who does not know, pediatric means children, neurologist means brain. So children's brain doctor. And I'm a female and a Black female. That within itself, I'm a minority. I'm not represented enough. I feel like I also want to work in the hospital setting. If I walk into an emergency room, 9 times out of 10, I feel like somebody's going to say, okay, that's great. You're probably the physician's assistant. When can I see the doctor? And I know I'm going to be faced with that a lot. And when I have to say, like, no, I am the doctor, and say, no, I prescribed the right medication, or no, I'm qualified to do this. And somebody is going to say, no, I don't feel like that, or no, it's just within that, somebody's going to say, you're not qualified, or no, you're not good enough to do this. Or even in applying to medical schools and applying to residencies and applying to my fellows, I could have all the qualifications, I could have all the extracurriculars, and they'll be like, no, because you're Black and because you're a woman, I can't see you doing this. And that hurts.
Terrifying, because there's this thing, and there's all types of interview bias and stuff like that. The way my name is spelled, I don't know if you all can see it, but my name is not spelled traditionally, so that it goes a long way in your career, and it really hurts, because as soon as they look at that, they throw your application away. And that's not even just, with jobs and stuff like that. That's also things I thought about with my own college applications and stuff like that. There were times where I straight up got replies from colleges and they told me that they wouldn't accept me because of the apostrophe in my name. So I definitely feel you. It's very stressful. It's annoying. Desiree, from your side of it, it's definitely going to be different because there's not very many, at least where I grew up, there aren't very many Black women teachers, let alone Black teachers, but for women, it's not very common. So how do you think you'll be, or do you think you'll be protected at all?
I don't know. I mean, I never really thought about it because growing up, I've seen many Black women teachers. Like, and all through elementary, I was taught by Black women, even though they weren't teaching me about Black history, but, I was taught by Black women. And I've seen women in my family that are teachers become, So I don't know. I feel like it depends on where I go to teach. Now, if I try to go out to a predominantly white community and try to become a teacher, I might face some adversity. I might not get the job, but I feel like in the setting that I probably want to be in, I'll probably be able to get the job that I want. I hear a lot of people that say, like, when I tell people I want to be a teacher, they're like, you want to teach kindergarten? Why would you want to teach kindergarten? I'm like, what you mean? Why? Like, that's when they're the nicest age. They more acceptance what you tell them to do. Like, teachers be about to fight kids in high school. Why do I want to put up with that? But I feel like there is a chance where I say some issues where I might not be able to get a job just because I'm Black. There's always a chance.
It's always in the back of your mind, I don't think people really realize that's another privilege. Like, your name is spelled a certain way, so you don't have to worry about your application being thrown out. So it's interesting. And like, I'm honestly terrified to fill out my race on job applications because I don't think that they'll take them. So I try to avoid it at all costs, but my name gives it away, so they get thrown away anyway.
Sometimes I think about clicking other. I'm not gonna lie. But I have looked like, dang, what if I, did check the other box? Like, what would they ask me,
Right. And to me, it's like, why is that even a question? I could be just as qualified as the next person. I have the same qualifications, if not more. And just because I have a certain name, I am not qualified no more. It's really hard. And, the next question is, do you believe there's a need for more Black leaders in the various industries? And all through the season, I think that we have definitely said yes. The representation has to be there. We need Black college leaders. We need Black educational leaders, like really lawyers, doctors, nurses. Irene just said something about that. We really need people to really.
I feel like that's the only way we can get ahead, honestly. If we don't have people in these fields that, like if we don't have Black congresswomen and men out here, we have nobody to represent our needs and our wants, because you can't expect a white person to know what you need or want because they may not have experienced that. When they already have been given pretty much everything that they need to get ahead, or they can get into the private schools with no issue, you can't expect them to fight the fight that you need them to.
Yeah, no, it's huge. Even here at OCC, that's why I created Black Student Union, is because we didn't really have that representation. We didn't have any Black student organizations, and that's just the truth. We didn't have any, really, but we have 2 Black deans, I believe, and it was just like, that was my biggest thing when I got hired. I was working for a Black dean, and it was like, oh my gosh, I feel welcome. I feel, I'm going to be heard. And I don't think people really see that as something that should be required. Well, I'm not going to say required, but it's something that helps. Like, retention rates it helps, just having something where people can feel comfortable being with their people. We're humans. It's human nature. It's psychology. We flock to people who look like us. It's the truth.
That matters a lot.
We're hardwired to do that. It's not intentional. It's not just to, I want to thank the deans for coming. I just seen your little note. Thank you so much. I'm sorry, you guys. We've been talking for a while, but
yes, thank you for coming.
This last March.
Thank you.
That representation is huge, and I really think that people need to be okay with Black leaders being in their space. We need to really get that word out. It's not just okay for white people to sit on a board of trustees. It's not just, oh, we can only have white people doing this, or our college history has only been this. Let's keep it this way. We have to rewrite all of that stuff if we're going to see change. If we're going to see, more people interested in joining, going to certain colleges. Interested in how colleges run. The different industries. It's just we have to write how things have happened, and the only way to do that is with representation. I don't know how you feel about it, but
I walked into a photography class 2 semesters ago, and I was like the only Black person in there, the only Black girl at that, and I'm like, dang.
It's intimidating.
I was like, do I want to stay? I didn't know what to do. I felt so uncomfortable. Like, I talked to nobody in the class, and it was just a silent classroom for me.
See, for you guys, I don't know. Like, I understand where you're coming from, but for me, since I grew up in Florida, but I was in a predominantly white area, and I was the only Black girl in my friend group. And for a very long time, and for those of you that know what I'm about to go into, hang on. For a very long time, I was the only Black person. And so for me to just be in an environment where I'm the only Black person, for me, that doesn't feel that's normal. It doesn't feel out of the norm. So for me to just go and to exist, it's just like, okay, such is life. I just got to keep moving. I just got to, I'm representing my people, and that's just how I carry it. That's just how I walk. That's just how I do it. Because at the end of the day, I know if nobody else is here to represent us, I represent us. So everything I do reflects on us. And if nobody else in that area has ever seen a Black person before, where a lot of people really do walk around right now like they've never seen a Black person before, well, I'm going to show them what a Black person walks around and does.
Okay, and this change starts right here. All right, we can go ahead and
I understand that completely.
Thank you so much.
Because it's like when you walk into a room and you're the only Black person in there, it's like you carrying your whole culture on your back. And if you, do something that they feel like is, not okay, like, oh, that was real ghetto for her to do or something like that, it's like, dang, I felt like one day I couldn't leave class early. I had to leave class early, but it was during Black History Month. I was like, how you gonna leave class early because it's Black History Month? I can't. You shouldn't have to think like that because you only get 1 month out of the entire year, to celebrate your people. It's not okay.
And it's the representation is so important, and thus brings us to our final slide, Black Student Union's info. So thank you all so much for joining us for this event. Black Student Union was established in 2019. We're very new. This is our first full year. We're in one full year of being an organization, and we promote and provide activities, resources, and opportunities to develop the growth within the minority community. For Christmas, we had this huge fundraiser. We had a volunteer event. We adopted a family, and it was amazing. They had a wonderful Christmas. The daughters got the 2 laptops that they needed for school, and the mom got all the stuff she wanted. It was amazing. And anybody who's interested in being a part of this, these are my 2 beautiful executive board members. Natalie is my secretary, and Desiree is my vice president. And our majors are right next to our names. I put that in because, of course, as I said before, we are not political science majors. I personally do not care about politics. I cannot get sucked into it. But I wanted to give you all a new perspective. how it feels coming from different, different groups. I believe there's one more slide with my contact information and my advisor's contact information as well. It's there in front of you, anclark@student.oaklandcc.edu. And Quincy Norwood is my advisor, qtnorwood@oaklandcc.edu. And our Instagram is at BSU_OCC. Thank you all so much for joining us. Had an amazing time. This was an amazing panel. I want to say thank you to my panelists. You guys were great. I know you were really nervous, but you knocked it out of the park. This was awesome. You guys, I'm so proud of you. Thank you so much again.
Thank you. Thank you everybody for coming to support our event.
Thank you so much.
Chat now. Thank you all for the comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
I can't believe it's been a year and we are still going strong. Keep in touch. Keep a lookout at our OCC Instagram, well, our BSU page on Instagram. I'll have our meeting schedule up soon, and we have some events coming up in February, so just keep a lookout. Thank you all again. I'm not sure how or if I can end the meeting, so I'm gonna let Ken come back.
I'll jump back in there. Wonderful job. Thank you, all three of you, for your great, honest, and brave discussion that you had today. It was great to see all the wonderful supportive comments from everybody. We really appreciate everyone coming out. We've got an event tomorrow as well. We talked, the MLK Convocation starts at 10 a.m. That's featuring keynote speaker, Dr. Rita Fields. I'm really looking forward to that event. We hope all of you can join. If you've not already signed up, please do sign up. We do have events coming up, so please stay connected with social media. Check the college event page for things that these young ladies are doing, as well as the other student orgs and other groups that we've got going on around the college. I want to thank you all for coming, and I'll be sending out the information, the video of this too. We'll have links to this video, so please feel free to share it and share this information to any students that might be interested in joining the BSU. Thank you all and have a great day.